Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Can all of you hear me?
Walaikum Assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. जी हज़रत, we can hear you.
Wallahi wa barakatuh.
वालेकुम अस्सलाम।
All right, let's start, inshallah. Alhamdulillahi wa kafa. Wa salamun ala ibadihi allazina astafa. Amma ba'd. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال يا بني لا تقصص رؤياك على إخوتك فيكيدوا لك كيدا إن الشيطان للإنسان عدو مبين. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. Last week we ended on this ayah in Surah Yusuf, where Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, he has a dream which he mentions to his father Sayyidina Yaqub alayhi salam, that I see that there are 11 stars which are doing sajda to me. And in response, the father Sayyidina Yaqub alayhi salam, he says to his son that, Ya Bunayya, my dear son, do not mention this dream to your brothers, lest they devise a plan against you. And we mentioned last week that this is a teaching that one should not do certain things that would make other people envious. This hasad. And we mentioned about hasad, what hasad is, how crippling and devastating the sin of hasad is for a person's spirituality. And then also mentioned a few things that we can do to save ourselves from hasad. Another point to remember here in this ayah, which is also an important lesson, particularly for those who are parents, is that when you speak to your kids, you should always try to explain to them the logic. Try to explain to them the reason why they should be doing something or why they shouldn't be doing something. Many times it happens that parents, they just issue the command that do this, don't do that. They don't explain the reason why. So here we see that Sayyidina Yaqub alayhi salam, he could have just said that, oh my son, do not relate this dream to your brother. Yani this was enough of an instruction. But he did not just issue the command, the order, but after that he also opened up and explained the reason why. فَيَكِيدُ لَكَ كَيْدًا, lest that they brothers, they devise a plan against you. So the Quran, this ayat of the Quran is teaching us that for any person who's in the role, who has this responsibility for tarbiyah, whether it's a father or a mother or even an ustad, a teacher of deen, a sheikh. So a murabbi, someone who's a guide, a mentor, and he has this responsibility of guiding, counseling, mentoring someone. They shouldn't just issue the command and say, do this and don't do that, but also try to explain the reason why. So, for example, explain why, what are the benefits if they do this, and what are the harms that for which they shouldn't be doing that amal. So in this way, it becomes easy for the person to understand once the reasons are given. There was once a young Sahabi, and he narrates that I had this bad habit that whenever I saw any fruit, any khujur, any date that I liked, I would just pick it up and I would start eating. I would sometimes climb trees and pluck the dates and start eating. And once I did this from a particular garden, And the owner of that garden, he became really angry at me. He said that, why are you stealing my dates? So he brought me to the Prophet ﷺ, and that Sahabi narrates that initially I was very scared, that I don't know what will happen to me. Maybe my hands will be cut and different types of punishment might be given to me. However, when that Sahabi, he was brought before the Prophet ﷺ, he says that the Prophet ﷺ looked at me and looked at me with a lot of leniency, with compassion, with mercy. He asked me to come close to him, come close to me. And then the Prophet ﷺ, he kept his hand on my shoulder, and uh, and because of that, I felt that compassion. My fear began to go away. And then very compassionately, the Prophet ﷺ asked me that, why do you climb trees of other people and eat their fruits and eat their dates? So he says that I explained that, O Messenger of Allah, I'm hungry. And that's why whenever I see something that I like, I take it. So then the Prophet says, he says, explain to me what the masala, the legal ruling. And explained, said that, look, if you find any dates on the ground, dates which are lying on the ground, so for those dates, everyone, it's open permission. It's izn-e-am, yani it's a general permission. If they're lying on the ground, then you can pick them up. So for example, you're walking on the pathway, you find some dates on the ground. So then anyone who finds them, they can eat it. However, those dates, those fruits which are there on the tree, one cannot take those dates or fruits without the permission of the owner. So explain to me what the legal ruling is, how to go about this issue. And then he says that after this, the Prophet ﷺ made dua for me, that, O Allah, remove the hunger of this boy and grant barakah in the provisions, in his provisions. And he says that after this, in my whole life, I never had any shortcomings in my risk. I never took anything from anyone without their permission. So this is a pointer for all of us, especially for those who are in this role of counseling others or helping others, or uh, parents or otherwise, that tarbiyah upbringing is that we don't just give the command, we also explain the reason. And explain the reason with love, with compassion, with mercy, so that the other person is able to understand and it goes into their heart. They accept it with their heart. Many times, even between husband and wife, like a marital relationship, this applies there as well. Because one reason why sometimes there are issues and problems within marriage is because one person is not able to explain the reason why they want something to be done to the other. The other person is not able to understand that, why is this being said to me? So since there is a gap in communication and the reasons are not explained, the other person doesn't know, why is this being said to me? And that leads to friction, sometimes disputes and problems in marriage as well. Sometimes husband and wives, they complain about their husband, that the husband just tells us do this or don't do that, but they don't explain why. They're very terse, very concise, and hence, because of that, the other person finds it difficult to understand that why should I do this? What's the hikmah? What's the wisdom? What's the logic? The same thing applies for those parents who have kids who are approaching the age of salah, like 7 years or 10 years old. So instead of admonishing the child if they're not praying salah, and forcing them and rebuking them and condemning them, instead of that, a person should try to have a compassionate way of explaining why is salah necessary, and try to wake them up at the time of Fajr, uh, and explaining to them that, if you, oh my son, if you, or my daughter, that if you can just make this effort and get up, leave the blanket, the comforter, make wudu and pray namaz, then your father will also become happy with you. Your mother, she will also become happy with you. And Allah Ta'ala will also become razi and pleased with you. So if you use such a compassionate tone and a compassionate way of explaining, then this will yield positive results. So this is the point that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching that we can extract from this ayah, that we should explain the reasons why. And only if a person just issues commands and doesn't explain, they just condemn the other person, they just scolding and screaming, then maybe for that time being temporary, it might work. The child might just succumb to your pressure, might be frightened, they will listen to you. But this is not how to do tarbiyah. In their mind, they will be rebelling against you. In their heart, there will be feelings of rebelliousness. And they'll just be waiting that when the opportunity is ripe, when they reach a particular age, they reach their teens or reach a particular age in their life, and they know that now our parents, they are no longer responsible for us, then that inner rebelliousness, that rebellion inner, which is within, that rebellion will come out. And then they will not listen to their parents, they will drift away and go on a totally different path. So we cannot discipline our children just by screaming and scolding them all the time. We need to use a way that is compassionate. Have a style of compassion, of wisdom, of love, and that is more beneficial. Inna shaytana lil insani aduwwun mubin. That shaitan surely is an open enemy for humanity. Now, this is also really interesting that Sayyidina Yaqub alayhi salam, if he did not mention this last line about shaitan, then there was this possibility, in fact, great high probability, that Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, he would begin to develop ill feelings towards his brothers. In Arabic, we call this su'izan, that he would begin to harbor misgivings or ill feelings, ill thoughts about his brother, that my brothers, they might envy me, they might be jealous of me. And for the father, that's why we see uh, uh, the father, Sayyidina Yaqub alayhi salam, he then mentions this last line as well, that, oh my son, your real enemy are not your brothers. Don't think that your brothers have enmity against you, that they are rebelling against you, planning against you, plotting against you. They have hasad and envy and jealousy for you. Don't think like that. Don't have misgivings about your brothers, but always remember rather that it's shaitan who is your real enemy. And shaitan causes these feelings of hasad and envy and jealousy to arise in the hearts of other people. So Sayyidina Yaqub alayhi salam is attributing any fault or weakness or any hasad, such feelings of jealousy, to shaitan. That shaitan puts these feelings. So don't have any misgivings against your brother, about your brothers, but rather remember that shaitan is your open enemy. So just one ayat of the Quran, but subhanallah, you can see that there's so many lessons that you can extract. And there's another point to remember here in this ayah, that when you have such a relationship like parents and their children or teachers and their students, so students or the children, they should have a habit of listening to no from their parents or teachers. This is a lesson for the students, for the young, that when they should have a habit of being able to listen to no. Because many times people who are young, they have this expectation that our every wish should be fulfilled, every demand should be fulfilled. Whatever we say to our parents, that has to be fulfilled. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that no. Sometimes children think that those parents who fulfill everything, they are good parents. That whatever they say, the parents, they give it. And that's why the parents are good. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying no. The father is saying, Ya bunayya, la taksus ru'yaka. That do not relate your dream. So now the young, they're getting this lesson that when they're being told to not do something, they should abstain from that. It's for their own benefit. So the people who are young, they're getting a lesson here that they should be comfortable listening to no from their parents. When they want something and their parents say no, they shouldn't be adamant. Rather, they should accept that there is some wisdom, it's for their own benefit. And this applies to all of us, not just children. We should also have a habit that in our own relationships, when we want certain things and the other partner is not able to give it to us, they're not giving it to us, we have to listen to a no. So it's okay. We should have a habit of listening to no sometimes as well. It's also part of our own tarbiyah. All right. Now we move to the next ayah. وَكَذَلِكَ, and in this way, يَجْتَبِيكَ رَبُّكَ, that your Lord will choose you, will select you. وَيُعَلِّمُكَ, so this is referring to Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, and then in this way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that your Rabb, He will select you, He will choose you. وَيُعَلِّمُكَ مِن تَأْوِيلِ الْأَحَادِيثِ, يَجْتَبِيكَ, He will choose you as a Nabi. He will select you, give you nobility, give you nabuwat. And وَيُعَلِّمُكَ, He will teach you the correct interpretation of dreams, of events. وَيُتِمُّ نِعْمَتَهُ عَلَيْكَ, and in this way He will perfect His ni'mah, His blessings upon you, O Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, وَعَلَىٰ آلِ يَعْقُوبَ, and upon the whole household of Sayyidina Yaqub alayhi salam. كَمَا أَتَمَّهَا عَلَىٰ أَبَوَيْكَ مِنْ قَبْلِ, just like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He had completed His favors and blessings and bounties before you on your parents, your forefathers, yani Ibrahim alayhi salam wa Ishaq. Inna rabbaka alimun hakim, and surely indeed your Rabb, your Lord, He is all knowing and He is all wise. He is all knowing and He is all wise. So here in this ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving this glad tiding to Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, that Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam will be blessed with nabuwat. And this will be the selection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the choice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala out of His servants, He chooses whoever He wishes and blesses them with this mantle of nabuwa. So there are different Anbiya alayhi salatu wassalam. And then Allah Ta'ala will perfect the ni'mate upon Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam. And you see, kama atammaha ala abawayk, just like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala perfected the blessings and favors upon your forefathers, Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salam and Sayyidina Ishaq alayhi salam. So here we get a lesson, a very another important lesson, that if a person has forefathers who are pious, honorable, religious, then that is something which is a sign of good fortune. It is a sign of honor. It is it's a good thing that a person comes from a religious family. However, we should always remember that just having religious parents and religious forefathers, that doesn't guarantee you Jannah. A person, they will get Jannah based upon their own actions, not because of the actions of their forefathers. But nonetheless, there is a merit in coming from a household which is religious. That's why at one time, the Prophet ﷺ, this was during the battle of Ghazwa Hunain. The Prophet ﷺ, he would say that Ana Nabiyyu la kazib, Ana Ibnu Abdul Muttalib, that I am a Nabi who does not lie, and I am the son, yani the grandson of Abdul Muttalib. So what the Prophet ﷺ would also mention his forefather, that I'm from this tribe, and say the Abdul Muttalib, he was viewed as an honorable person. So here, Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, his father and grandfather and great-grandfather, they were all the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hazrat Yaqub alayhi salam was the father, Nabi of Allah. Hazrat Ishaq alayhi salam was the grandfather, Nabi of Allah. And Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam was also the great-grandfather, also a Nabi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So because Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, he comes from this whole household of Nabuwa, the progeny of Nabuwa, this was a point of honor. The whole household was honorable in that sense. So from here we understand that if parents are pious, then normally Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them awlad, children who are also going to continue on that path of piety and righteousness. This is the norm. So we're not saying exceptions don't exist. There are exceptions. For example, Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam, he had a son who drowned, did not believe in Allah. And the wife of Sayyidina Lut alayhi salam, she also disbelieved. But the Mufassirin, they write that those two are exceptions to the norm. The norm, the general habit and the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that if the parents are pious and virtuous, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses them with children who will also continue on that path of piety and goodness. So for that reason, if nothing else, we should also try to practice righteousness and piety and taqwa in our own life so that this can rub off in a good way on the lives of our children. If we want our children to become pious, very simple, very easy rule, we need to become pious ourselves. It's easier said than done, but this is really what it requires, right? That we need to become pious if we want our children to become pious. And if we are not willing to change ourselves and want to continue on the path of heedlessness and somehow miraculously think that our children should grow up and become pious, then that's almost next to impossible. So this marks the end of the first ruku. Now we begin the next ruku. لَقَدْ كَانَ فِي يُوسُفَ وَإِخْوَتِهِ آيَاتٌ لِلسَّائِلِينَ. So now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala begins the story and prefaces that by saying that surely in the story of Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam and his brothers, there are ayat, there are signs, there are signals, there are things through which people can ponder and reflect, and they can take lessons. But who? Lis-sa'ilin, for those who ask. Now, who were these people, the sa'ilin, those who were asking? So in the immediate context, these were the Jews and these were the mushrikeen who were living in Makkah Mukarramah. So in one sense, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving a reply to both these groups, that for the Jews in this story, if they ponder upon this story really carefully, that's mentioned here in the Quran, there will be signs for them. There will be ayat for them. And similarly for the mushrikeen, the idol worshippers living in Makkah Mukarramah, they also will find lessons and pointers and points of reflection and ibra in this story as well. So what will be those signs that will come, inshallah? But for example, there'll be this one sign that said that Yusuf alayhi salam, he would be removed from his family, would leave his family, and outwardly would go through some difficult stage in his life, would undergo tests and trials and tribulations. But then later on, that same test and trial will become the means of his honor. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will change the tide, and eventually there will be a happy ending. So in the same way, this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is indicating to the mushrikeen in Makkah that my beloved Messenger sallallahu, he will also be initially forced to leave his hometown, Makkah Mukarramah. He will also pass through tests, Badr, Uhud, Khandak. He would have to migrate to Medina Munawwara. There will be different battles that will take place. But eventually, he will return back with honor, with victory, with izzah, with respect. So in one sense, it's being said that, oh, mushrikeen in Makkah, once the brothers of Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, the bad and the plotting and the planning that they did against the Prophet sallallahu, there would come a time when those same brothers, they would be coming before the Prophet sallallahu, and they will be seeking forgiveness, that please forgive us. They will be coming before Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, and they will be begging for forgiveness. In the same way, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that, O people of Makkah, if you also don't mend your ways, and if you don't stop hurting the Prophet sallallahu, then there will also come a time when you will be brought before the Prophet sallallahu, and then you will be asking forgiveness from the Prophet sallallahu. إذ قالوا ليوسف وأخوه. It happened when they said, who said? The brothers. So this is now the dialogue, the statement of the brothers of Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, that they said that la Yusuf wa akhuhu, that the Yusuf and his brother, this one brother who was Binyamin, ahabbu ila abina minna, that both they are dearer to our father than we are. Wa nahnu usba, while we are a whole group. Inna abana lafi dhalalim mubin, indeed our father is in a clear error. So here we see a very important point here again. When Sayyidina Yusuf al-Islam, he narrated the dream to his father, after that, the father Sayyidina Yaqub al-Islam, he did not interpret the dream for his son, did not give the details that what does this dream mean, but rather just gave the advice that don't mention this to your brothers. So we understand that sometimes you don't need to give details for everything. You just give them, someone asks, someone narrates something, you give them advice, that which is necessary for them, that which is beneficial for them. and things which are futile, which are unnecessary, there is no need to engage in that kind of conversation, to waste the time. So here, Sayyidina Yaqub alayhi salam, he just gave the real advice that was necessary without giving the details about what the dream means. So this statement here, the brothers of Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, in reality, there were two brothers, Hazrat Yusuf alayhi salam and Binyamin. They were from one mother, and the other brothers, they were from the other, were from another mother. And Hazrat Yusuf alayhi salam and Binyamin, they were the youngest. And because of that, Hazrat Yaqub alayhi salam, he had a very special love for the two of them, loved them a bit more than the others. And not only that, the two youngest, yani Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam and Binyamin, they also had certain qualities, attributes, sifat, which were praiseworthy, which distinguished them from the other brothers, and because of which Sayyidina Yaqub alayhi salam had a special attachment to them. So the other brothers, they felt that why is it that our father, he gives this special attachment, special love, special treatment to those two and not to us? And even though we are a stronger group, so they had this expectation that we are stronger, we are larger group, so we should be deserving of this attention, of this special preferential treatment, not those two. So sometimes when you have love for someone and you have too much love for someone, that also becomes a means of a test. The one who is loving the lover, they also undergo a test. And the one who is being loved, they're also put through a test. So you see here, we can see here that Hazrat Yusuf alayhi salam, his father Hazrat Yaqub alayhi salam, he loved his son Hazrat Yusuf alayhi salam. And both of them were put to a test, the father as well as the son. So in this the times that we're living in, we should be careful about this love, about expressing love, and not exceed the boundaries in displaying and expressing our love for someone, except for husband-wife. Husband-wife is a different relationship. There the Sharia says that the more you express love for your spouse, the less it is. Be expressive as much as you want. That's a relationship between husband and wife, where Sharia wants you to be expressive, commands you, khayrukum li ahlihi, that the best of you is the one who is best towards his spouse. So in that relationship, one should express their love. But other than that, one has to be careful lest a person is made to go through some test or trial in their life. That's why in the Quran, Allah Ta'ala mentions at one place, this is Surah Toba, that, "O my beloved messenger, say to the people that in kana aba'ukum wa abana'ukum wa ikhwanukum wa azwajukum wa ashiratukum." Yani Allah Ta'ala lists down a whole series of relationships. That if your father, your sons, your brother, your relatives, the wealth, the job, the fields where you go and do your agriculture, the houses that you live in, if all of those things, if any one of those things, ahabba ilaykum min Allahi wa rasuli, if they are more beloved to you than Allah and His Messenger, wa jihadin fi sabili, and to struggle in the path of Allah, then fatarabbasu, then you should wait. then you should wait until the command of Allah comes. Yani, it's okay to have love for others, the permissible loves, but even in those permissible loves, the dominant, overpowering, and primary love should be the love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All other loves should be branches. There should be secondary. Nothing, the overpowering love should be the love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And all the other loves, they should be in the name of Allah, for the sake of Allah. So the brothers, they are thinking, what should we do? How to get rid of this problem that the father loves Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam more than us? So they say, Uqtulu Yusuf. Let's kill Yusuf. Awitarahuhu ardan. Ardan yakhlu lakum wajhu abikum. Or let's throw him at some place on the earth. And in this way, then you can get the father's full attention. The father's full attention will be devoted for you alone. وَتَكُونُوا مِن بَعْدِهِ قَوْمًا صَالِحِينَ. And after doing this, and after killing Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam or throwing him somewhere, after this, then you can become a righteous person. You can make tawbah. And then you can become righteous. So the brothers now, they are planning. They are consulting that how can we win this special gaze of love of our father? How can we get that special attention of our father? So the solution that they decide upon is, let's kill Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam. Or let's throw him somewhere else. And then later we will make tawbah and we'll become pious. Now, 2 points are important here. First is this decision of the brothers to kill Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam. And truly, this is what hasad leads to. Hasad, envy, jealousy, this is such a devastating illness. Then you cannot withstand why is the other person alive. You can't tolerate even the existence of another person. You wish that this person should be dead. We see this. Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam, his people, they said about Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam that we will throw stones at you and we will kill you. Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, his community also said the same thing. Harrikuhu, let's burn him up. Fir'aun said the same thing to Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. Innal mala'a ya'tamiruna bika liyaqtuluka. Let's kill him. Let's kill Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. The Jews at the time of Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam, they also planned and plotted in the same way against Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam. And they thought in their own mind that we have killed Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam. And the same happened with the Prophet ﷺ as well. Allah mentioned that وَإِذْ يَمْكُرُ بِكَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لَيُثْبِتُوكَ أَوْ يَقْتُلُوكَ أَوْ يُخْرِجُوكَ. That these unbelievers are also making plans against you, O the Prophet ﷺ, to either imprison you or kill you or to exile you from their city. So from all of these stories, we learn that the envier, they go to the end degree, which is that now they just want to kill the other person. They can't tolerate the existence. So that's one thing that we see. The second point, which is also very ajib and beautiful here, that if the person who is being envied against, so you have the envier and then there's a person whom they're envying, one who's receiving the envy from others. If that person doesn't respond, doesn't take revenge, and just leaves the matter in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah, I just ask you for help and assistance, save me from the envy of the envier, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will always assist such a person. And in terms of the final outcome, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will always give izzat, honor, respect, and dignity to this individual. Yani Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will always increase the shan and the honor of such a person. That person against whom people are envying. If you reflect, Hazrat Nuh alayhi salam, he became Naji'ullah. Allah gave him najat, saved him, rescued him. Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam, people were planning to kill him, throw him in the fire. Allah made him Khalilullah, the friend of Allah. Hazrat Musa alayhi salam, Pharaoh tried to kill him. Allah made Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam Kalimullah, the only Nabi who has this honor of doing kalami, speaking to Allah Ta'ala. Hazrat Isa alayhi salam, he became Ruhullah. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he became Habibullah Rasulullah, the beloved of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the envier, he in the end burns in his own fire of envy. And those people against whom he is envying, if they don't respond, they don't take revenge, if they leave the matter in the hands of Allah, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always helps them. Allah always assists them. Allah always gives them honor and dignity as the final outcome. وَتَكُونُوا مِنْ بَعْدِهِ قَوْمًا صَالِحِينَ. This is also classic shaitan. Let's kill Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam, and then afterwards we'll make tawbah. We'll become pious. This is exactly how shaitan works. He puts this waswasa in the mind. Just commit this sin one last time, and then after that you can leave it. After that you can make tawbah. And then one last time, it's never the last time. It's never the last time. Today as well, shaitan uses the same tactic. Just do this sin one last time, one more time. Then, one last, whatever the sin is. And then make tawbah. So we should remember here that person who thinks that I'm just going to sin one last time, and one more time, and one last puff, and one last look, and one last sin, shaitan will never leave such a person. In fact, that person is now falling into a pitfall. There's only one way to save ourselves from sin, and that is that we don't even sin that one last time, that one more time. So whoever says that, let me sin right now and then later I will make tawbah, that's not a true tawbah. It's a tawbah fast. It's an invalid tawbah fasida. So this is how shaitan deceives and dupes a person. Says that just do this one last time. Qala qailum minhum, one of them, one of the brothers of Sayyidina Yusuf, one of those brothers, and they're consulting with each other. So one of them, he said, La taqtulu Yusuf, don't kill Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam. Wa alquhu fi ghayabatil jubbi. Rather, let's cast him into the bottom of a well, a pit. Yaltaqithu ba'du sayyarati in kuntum fa'ilin. let's throw him in the well. And perhaps some wayfarers who are passing by, journeyers, travelers, they might pick him up. So if you really want to do something, let's just do this. Put him inside a well. And in this way, you will achieve what you want, because Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salam will be away. He will no longer be with you, with Sayyidina Yaqub alayhi salam. So then it'll just be you, and you can now win over the gaze of your father. You can enjoy all the love of your father. So the brothers, they agreed upon this, that we'll carry this out. And now they come to their father for permission. Qalu, Ya Abana. So they said to Sayyidina Yaqub alayhi salam that, oh, our father, Ma laka la ta'manna ala Yusufa, that why is it that you don't trust us about Yusuf alayhi salam? We want to take Yusuf alayhi salam out on a field trip, on a jungle trip, on a picnic. Why don't you trust us about Yusuf alayhi salam? Wa inna lahu la nasihun. While we are his well-wishers, we are surely his well-wishers. So we should remember that every person who wants to do ill, wants to create corruption, they will always come in the appearance of a well-wisher. Whoever wants to spread fitna, fasad, whether intellectual ideologies or sins or actions which are wavered, they will always appear in the form of someone that I'm a well-wisher. I only wish well for you. I don't intend any harm. I'm only coming as your well-wisher. Listen to me. We see all the way back in the story of Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam, when Shaitan, he came to Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam and Amma Hawwa alayhi salam, he also came in the form of a well-wisher, that I'm your well-wisher. If you want to remain in Jannat forever, just eat from this one tree. I'm your well-wisher. And he started taking qasam, that I swear I'm your well-wisher. Inni lakuma lamina nasihin. I'm your well-wisher for both of you. I'm willing to take a qasam, to take an oath, to swear. And then he caused them to eat from that tree. Today, also the same thing happens. Someone who is, let's say, pious and righteous, and he then gets stuck in the company of bad people, bad company. And those bad friends, they come and say, well, we are your well-wisher. And they take their friend away from that path of piety, salah, righteousness. And then take that person all the way into the path of sin. This is how it begins. They say that we are your well-wisher. I'm your real friend. I'm your true friend. Listen to me. Trust me. Why aren't you trusting me? Trust me. And then in the name of that friendship and trust and being a well-wisher, they drag that person out and take that person to sin. So here then a question comes up, that even those who are righteous and pious scholars, they also come and give nasihat. And there are also people who are pretenders. They also use the same rhetoric. How can we differentiate that who is our real well-wisher and who is just faking it? How can we differentiate? So in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us a very easy litmus test, that your real well-wishers are the Anbiya alayhi salam, the prophets of Allah, who came to their communities, to their people, and said that Ana lakum nasihun ameen, that we are your well-wishers and we are also ameen. We are trustworthy, honest. So we learn that we need to be well-wisher, but also we need to find someone who is ameen, honest with us. Nasihun ameen. So they continue with their father, trying to convince their father. Next, they say, Arsilhu ma'ana ghadan. So, our father, send him, and he send Yusuf alayhi salam with us tomorrow. Yarta, that he can eat with us. Wa yal'ab, and play with us. And either let's go out for a picnic. You can eat, have a good time, play. We can do some sports activity. Wa inna lahu lahafizun. And rest assured, we will surely remain as guards for him. We'll protect him. So here the word yal'ab is used. That we'll do some sports. So this, I think I want to use this ayah to mention something about sports in Islam. Because a lot of times people ask this question that what are the guidelines regarding sports, Islamic guidelines? So what are the conditions, any restrictions, everything is all sports okay, some okay. What's the Islamic perspective on sports and play? This is an issue which I feel is not so clear among some people. So it's something which requires some clarification. Sometimes people think that in Islam there is no concept of sports and play and games. And some people say and think that everything is okay, all is good. So those are the two extremes. In Sharia, there are certain guidelines. I'll just summarize. Regarding sports, play, games, there are 5 points to remember, 5 conditions. For a game or a sport to be jaiz or permissible, it needs to fulfill 5 conditions. What are those 5 conditions? Number 1, that while playing that sport, your satar should be covered. So for the men, satar means the area between navel to the knee. That area has to be covered. So that means any sport which requires you to expose your satar in front of strangers, that sport will not be okay. So you want to play football, that's fine. But just ensure that navel to the knee, that is covered. Want to do swimming, that's fine. Just ensure that the costume covers you from navel to the knee. Second condition is for the permissibility is that it should not be a mixed gender game. For example, it shouldn't be that people are swimming and there are men in the pool, there are women in the pool, and they're all intermixing. So that would also not be okay. The third is that the sport should not make use of certain music or musical instruments which are not permissible. So if that impermissible type of music is being used for that sport, then that would not be okay. That sport will not be okay. And number 4 is that there shouldn't also be any dancing or such activities like which are also impermissible. That shouldn't be part. Dancing is okay, but they shouldn't be part of that sport where a person they are transgressing the boundary. And the last is that there's a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, man tashabbaha bi qaumin fahuwa minhum, that it should not have a resemblance, that sports should not have a resemblance with a particular act or an activity which is specific to some religion, some non-Islamic religion. That mushabihat should not be there with some other religion. So these are, you can see, vague, abstract, but these are such important principles, 5 important principles, which are foundational, that you can keep these 5 points in mind, and based upon these 5 principles, you can then decide that which sports are okay, which are not okay. So also we should understand certain principles regarding sports and games. First principle is that if that game or sport does not provide any benefit to a person's deen or the dunya, then it's just a waste. In Quran, Allah calls that lahab. It's something which is futile, a futile activity, and it's something that should be avoided. And if there's something which is not benefiting either your dunya or your deen, then it's just futile, should be avoided. If there is a benefit in that sport to your deen or to your dunya, however, it makes you heedless of your faraiz. For example, you miss your salah, then again, that sport also has to be avoided. You watch a cricket match, and then you may end up missing your salah because of that cricket match. So obviously that's an issue, that's a problem. And if there is a benefit in that sport with regard to your dunya or to your deen, but if it is against the commands of the Sharia, then again, that sport will not be permissible. So I gave you these principles. And now looking at these principles, there'll be new sports, new games all the way till the very end, till Qiyamah, new sports will keep coming up. But the deen of Islam is so beautiful that it's given us these foundational principles, that using these principles, we can judge and we can ascertain that which sports are okay and which are not. So, for example, the sports are all okay, provided that your satar is covered, you don't miss any salah, it's not inter-gender mixing and dancing, music, those kinds of things are not happening. If these things are avoided, then football is okay, hockey is okay, volleyball is okay, tennis, badminton, basketball, shipping, sailing, swimming, running, shooting arrows, horse riding, all of these are okay. So the basic principle is that the rules of Allah should not be broken, and the rules of Allah should not be left. Not to break the ahkam of the Sharia, and not to leave the ahkam, the rules of the Sharia. So computer games are also, one can apply the same ruling to them as well, that there is a benefit in your mentally exercising your mind, but it shouldn't be the case that you become so engaged that you end up missing your salah. So in the deen of Islam, in fact, there is encouragement to spend time in sports. It provides refreshment to your body, to your mind as well. So not only does Islam give permission, Islam encourages to participate in sports, swimming and others as well in particular. Sports which benefit you, which benefit your mind, which benefit your body, which keep you fit, healthy, energetic. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. Islam doesn't want that you be skinny and all weak and your limbs are weak and you don't even have strength to walk properly, can't even run. That's not what Islam wants. Kaviyun mu'min. Islam wants that you be a strong believer. Allah loves a strong believer. But one should not do anything where the laws of Allah Ta'ala are broken. The laws of Islam are broken. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give all of us the tawfiq and the ability that we can apply these teachings of the Quran in our life as well. Inshallah, we will continue this next week. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.